Alrighty, welcome everybody. I'm on just a few seconds early. Tonight's going to be a little bit different, but let me introduce myself first. My name is Julie Brown. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'd like to welcome you. I usually show cards, but tonight I've decided to do a mini, what I call junk journal, but it's going to be a travel journal using Stampin' Up! Products, and so we're going to be using the On the Go suite. Last week I showed you guys a bunch of cards that I made with that suite, so if you missed that, then you might want to go to my YouTube channel and check that out so that you can see that. And I promised you guys I was going to do the travel journal. I was also going to do the suitcase that it's a little box that comes with it. It's part of the suite, but I was not able. Well, this is just going to take a little bit longer than I thought for tonight. So let's get some of the what I call housekeeping out of the way. So if you decide you'd like to place an order with me, you can do that through juliebrown.stampinup.net. I usually have it in the description, but I could not get it in the description tonight. So after this live goes down, or I'm done with this live, I will go on to the YouTube channel and add it to the description. Facebook, the only way I can do it is add it in the comments. So if you're watching on Facebook, that's where you'll find it. If you would like to get in touch with me, you can reach me at juliescreativestampin@gmail.com. And then obviously you're watching me on my YouTube. The YouTube channel is a little bit different though. It's juliebrown.juliescreativestamping, and don't forget to check out my blog. So what's going on with Stampin' Up! Right now? Stampin' Up! Has a free shipping that started today. So for the next 3 days, the 23rd, 24th, and 25th, for any orders that are $75 or more, you can get free shipping. So they don't always give us a lot of heads up. So as soon as I hear about it, I let you guys know. One other event that is coming up for me is going to be, I am doing a paper party workshop. And what this is it's kind of like a paper share, except that I'm actually going to hold a class on Thursday, May 22nd, I believe it is. It says it right there, but I can't read it that well. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's an in-person class, but I will also have an online class that is going to be happening on May 31st. And so if you're interested in that, what happens is you're going to get a quarter pack of all of the new designer series paper that you see listed right there on the sheet. You're going to get 9 pre-cut card kits that you will go work along with me. And then you'll get some linen thread and some rhinestone jewels as well. I'm doing this in conjunction with a friend of mine in Canada. So if you are listening and you're from Canada and you would like to be part of this, just email me at the Julie's Creative Stampin' without the G at gmail.com, and I will get you in touch with her. So I just wanted to let you guys know that was going on. All right. Is there anything else? So the 2 suites that I am going to be using, sorry, let me get this out of the way. Stop. Okay, so I'm using products from the On the Go suite, but I'm also bringing in some things that are retired. And for those of you that don't know what junk journaling is all about using the stuff that you have at home. So I do focus on Stampin' Up! Products while I'm doing this because that's what I have. But I just wanted to let you know that's what's behind the whole junk journal. This one isn't as big of a junk journal as I've done in the past, but it is going to be a lot of fun. But I am using products from the On the Go suite. And then the stamp set or the bundle is the Tags to Go bundle that is part of that suite. So those are the 2 things that we're going to be using. All right, so let me get this out of the way. So I'm going to do a flip through of the journal, and then we'll start putting it together. And I'll talk to you about the tools that you need to do this. Now, I do want to point out to you guys, let me go ahead and flip to the journal. I do want to point out to you guys that this is my free class for this week. And so anytime I have a free class, if you place an order of $40 or more, I usually give you the card kits for free. Well, that's what's going to happen with this. So if anyone who places an order with me for $40 or more between now and next Monday, I will ship you out all the pieces and parts to put this together, including these little rings, and I will already have the these little eyelets put in the paper for you. So just so that you know. But I just wanted to do a really quick journal. Now, the reason I came up with this is because this summer we're doing a little road trip with my grandchildren. And so I wanted to make them this little mini travel journal where they could add their pictures to and any memorabilia. So as you can see, we've got all the little fun tags and pieces that go in it. And then I just use the paper. This is a guest check. And my intention for this is for them to write down their favorite food that they had on the trip. But as you can see, there's places for them to write, places for them to put pictures. I'll show you how I put this together, but I've got little tags where they can just write little thoughts as they're on the trip. Again, places for pictures, more pictures. And then I did go ahead and add a little map, and I made a little pocket here for them to add whatever they want to keep there. And then this is just one of these journal pieces that is just stuck in here. And then we've got this fun little piece on the back that flips open and more places to write some notes. So this is what we're going to be putting together tonight. And so let's get started. So the first thing that I want to do is these tags. These are the tags that I fussy cut out from the designer series paper. And what I want to do is on the back, I actually want to put a backing on them so that you can write on both the front and the back. And so to do that, I am going to bring in, and I thought I had more than this sitting over here. I'm going to bring in some paper that I have previously tea dyed. Let me scoot you guys back out. So this is just some tea dyed paper, and all I'm going to do is I am going to bring in my silicone mat because I want to make sure I get a good coverage of glue on this. Sorry, I'm looking for something, but I can't find it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Tombow glue, and we're going to stick this up in this corner, maybe. And I'm going to put quite a bit because I'm doing several tags here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a tag, and I'm just going to pick up the glue with that sponge, and I'm just going to sponge that all over the tag, the back of the tag. Then I'm going to set that back there, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to set this on this tea dyed paper. So this is just paper that I have tea dyed, but I want this, I'm doing this because I want to be able to have a writing spot on both the front and the back. All right, so there's that one. And then we're going to do another one. And I'm just moving it because I didn't want to put it face down in that glue. And so I am just going to do all these because these are going to need a little bit of time to dry before we put them in the book. So this is our first step in putting this together. But as you can see, it's pretty simple to get that glue on the back if you just use a little bit of a little sponge. And then it just goes on there really good. And we all know our Tombow glue is excellent. And if I do get some glue on the front, I will be able to fix that. And I'm using my bone folder to just kind of smooth that down. So again, if you guys are new to my channel, just let me know you're here. You can type in the comments and let me know you're here. And then also, if you have any questions while I'm going through this, make sure that you type in those questions so that I can answer. Here's another piece of tea dyed paper. And I think I'm just going to try to hold this in my hand so I don't have to worry about putting it in the glue. And then let's do this next piece. And so once I get all these done, then we'll be ready to move on. And I'm going to show you all the steps because you might have some of these tools at home. And so I'm going to show you all the steps to putting this together. And if you have all the tools at home, then this won't be a problem for you. If you don't have the tools at home, like I said, if you do place an order with me, I will put all the eyelets and stuff in, onto the book so that you don't have to worry about that part of it. So anyway, so yeah, we're going to take this road trip with my two of my grandkids. And they've been asking me to take them to Ohio for a while. And it just so happens I'm going to be going to a convention with another business that I'm involved with. And I'm going to be hanging out there. And so my husband and I decided we should just go ahead and do one last little road trip. I don't know if it'll be the absolute last, but you know, we're kind of getting to the point where we prefer flying now instead of driving. So, okay, so I'm just going to set all this to the side and let those dry. And then I'm just going to make sure I always have a cloth here. And this is just to, when you're making journals, it seems like we get more glue on our hands and sometimes on our workspace. So something that I learned how to do was just have a little cloth with some alcohol on it. And that way I can rub my hands on that and it takes the glue right off. And then I can also see that I got some glue down here. So I'm going to rub that really quick and let that dry a hot minute. I'll probably bring in a sheet. Sorry, I got some glue right there. I'm going to bring in some scrap paper while that's drying. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm using for this one. So the fun thing is this On the Go Suite, one of the pages had these cutouts. So they were basically 4x6 and you just had to cut them out. Now I did add some paper and so I cut the paper to 4x6, but these were all on a sheet that you just had to cut apart. And so this is perfect for journaling. And so basically that's all I did was just get those particular pages out off that sheet, and then I added a couple more. So I think I have a total of 10 pages. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I do have 10, and I'm going to set those up there for now because the other thing that I did was I looked at some of the I had some old this was a card, and it was one of, I can't even remember what this was, but it was Stampin' Up. It was one of the cards and envelopes that they that I got many years ago. And so I want this one to be sorry, I need to find my alcohol. I've got some glue right there. See if I can get that off my finger. And so what I did was I cut this card in half so I could make a little pocket out of this. Now I'm also going to be using a I think this is a 1-inch circle punch. And so my circle punch is just going to go in here. And this is what we call a thumb hole. So I'm just going to create a little thumb hole here for this. And then I'm going to bring in some tear and tape. Now you can use liquid glue here, but because I'm on screen with you guys, I wanted to use tear and tape so that this went a little bit faster. So I'm just going to throw some tear and tape down. Use my bone folder to burnish that to make sure it stays down. Bring in my take your pick tool and pull the top. So our tear and tape is basically double-sided tape for those of you that don't know. And then I'm just going to shut that and burnish. And then what I like to do is, I had it sitting right here. Oh, I'm telling you, you know, you think you have everything right where you need it, and then the minute you start looking for it, it all disappears. So I had a little sponge dauber that was black, and now I don't see it. I don't think I put it back. Maybe I did. Let's look. So I'm going to pull out a sponge dauber, if I have one that's basic black in here. Oh, there it is. Maybe I did put it up. So all I'm going to do to just kind of help highlight this, I like to chalk when I'm doing these. And I'm not going to chalk everything. I'm just going to chalk a few of the things tonight, just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like when you do chalk the edges. So we're just going to go around and we're just going to chalk these edges. And then we're going to go on this side and chalk these edges. And then the fun thing about doing these little journals is that this is where you bring in like your old stamp sets, your new stamp sets, and you do, you know, it gives you the chance to do some stamping. And so what I want to do on this one is I'm going to flip this over to this side, and I don't even remember what stamp set this is from. Let me see if I have it sitting here. Yeah. So this is an old retired stamp set. It was called He's All That. And so I'm going to use this little, or I think I'm going to do this one with the little van on it, since we're going on a road trip. And I'm going to use Azure Afternoon, because that's one of the colors that's in the On the Go suite. So we're going to ink that up. Make sure this is squared here. And then I'm just going to stamp that right in the center there. Now you can do all the fun stamping and stuff that you want. That's part of when we're making these little journals, is adding it and making it yours, making it so that it fits what you're going to be doing. Because maybe you're not going on a road trip. Maybe you're going to do this little, you're going to create this little mini journal, and you're going to give it to somebody who is graduating from high school for their senior trip to put things in. So, you know, whatever it is that you want to do, this is the time to do that. All right, the other thing that I did was I used our pocket dies, and I used this middle die, and I went ahead and cut out a pocket, because these pocket dies are perfect. So if you like junk journaling, these pocket dies are perfect for that. And then all I have to do now, well, first I'm going to go ahead and stamp on this as well. Again, like I said, this is, you know, you're going to stamp with the stamps that you have, and you're going to make this look the way that you want it to look. And so this time I'm going to use the little compass, and I'm still going to use the Azure Afternoon. And I know this is Azure Afternoon, but yes, I am stamping the, you know, same color on the cardstock as the cardstock, but it'll be fine. So there we go. And then what's cool about this is that it scores this when it cuts it out. So now all I have to do is bend where the score lines are and burnish this to get it ready to go in. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Same thing here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the tear and tape on this, but I'm not ready to put this in the page yet. Again, you can use liquid glue if you've got time to let it set. But again, because I'm doing this, I'm going to use tear and tape. And I do use tear and tape a lot when I'm doing these little mini journals, just because I feel like, one, it makes it quicker for me to put it together, And, you know, number two, it just works better. You know, it just, it holds really well. So I do like the tear and tape. And again, tear and tape, we call it in Stampin' Up. In the Stampin' Up world, we call it tear and tape. It is simply double-sided tape. And so that's what we're looking at. All right. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is, let me grab a little envelope. I thought I had one sitting out, but now that I'm looking, I don't have one sitting out. Okay, so this is just a little, I believe this is just a little 4x4 envelope. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of open this up here. And I'm going to actually fold this like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this top part off because actually I guess you could leave it on. Let me go ahead and fold the whole thing. The only thing is that this has that self-sticky. So yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and cut it off like I originally said. And so I'm going to cut this off. And then what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to do some stamping and trying to see what stamps I might want to use for this. Yeah. So I'm going to bring in the Legendary Ride, and I'm going to kind of use these fun little flames to make it look like we're, you know, traveling down the road. Again, realize I have a specific purpose for this, and so I am trying to stay focused with that. And so I'm going to bring in some pumpkin pie ink, and then we're just going to stamp these flames on both sides. So I'm just going to ink this up. And you'll want to do, like any stamping, any decorating that you, you know, mainly stamping. You want to do your stamping before you try to put these pieces all in, because it's just a lot easier to stamp when before you put it in. Okay, so I'm just going to bring these in. Again, like I said, you guys are going to see me use a lot of retired products here because, one, I'm trying to encourage you guys to use the stuff that you have, and two, you know, that's kind of what journaling, or what we call junk journaling, is all about. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I am going to run a piece of tear and tape up here, and that's going to give me not just 2 pockets, that's going to give me a 3rd pocket, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. These are all the little intricacies that you think about when you're doing what we call junk journaling. But again, you know, I specialize in using Stampin' Up products when I do my junk journaling. And then I should have put it across the bottom. I totally forgot. So now I'm going to come in with some liquid glue, because obviously we need this bottom part shut. Kind of important if this is going to be a pocket. So now I'm just going to bring that in there, and that's going to shut that up just fine. And I'm going to go ahead and burnish that. You'll notice I do a lot of burnishing. And then what that's done is it's given us a pocket here, and a pocket on this side, and then a pocket in the middle here. Okay, so it gave us quite a few pockets. All right, so now I'm gonna start to put this together with a minimal amount of pockets. You guys can add as many pockets as you want. I am just trying to show you the basics tonight of putting this together. So I am just gonna start, oh wait, I do have something else to add, I forgot. So I'm going to, let's see, go a couple pages in, maybe it was farther than that. And what I did was, part of junk journaling is using old books, old maps. Well, I had this little map. Now it is going this way, but this is of Ohio, and that just happens to be where I'm going. So I wanted to add this onto this page right here. And I just cut it like 1/8 of an inch shorter all the way around. So I'm just going to use my Stampin' Seal, and I'm just going to add this page to this map to that page. That just gives it a fun look. And like I said, you can make these types of journals for whatever you want to. That one just ran out. Hopefully my next one is full. I just wanted to do, because this paper is on the go, I just wanted to do an on the go one. Okay, so I'm going to bring this in. Oopsie. I'm just going to lay that down, and I think I got more. Nope, it's even. Okay, so that's going to go like that, and then eventually this is going to go on top of that. Okay. All right, so in the meantime, let's get all of these pieces together. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a ruler, and I am going to mark where I want my holes to be. So I want them to be a 1/4 of an inch in. So I'm using this ruler, and here's my 1/4 of an inch in. I'm going to bring in a pencil, and I'm going to go up 1/2 an inch, put a little dot. I'm going to come down 1/2 an inch. And then because this is 4 inches, I'm going to go right at 2. So now I have my 3 dots, and I just need to do that on the front. And so now we're ready to start putting this together. And so we're going to have this page, and then I'm going to stick, trying to decide which way I want it. Then I'm going to stick, that page is going to be next. And then I'll have this page. This page, this page, and then this is where I'm going to bring in my other little pocket that I made. Oh, hold on, I'm going to do something before I glue all this together. And then I don't think I have any other special pockets to put on that have to be in this section. But before I do that, I'm going to come in with that chalk again, or my sponge dauber, and I'm going to chalk around these edges. This just gives it, it helps it to kind of pop off, you know, in the journal. So I'm going to do that on both sides. And a lot of times you'll see me using, like when I'm doing like the bigger junk journals, I do like to use like the browns, like Early Espresso and Pecan Pie. And those are like my favorite colors. But because this really didn't have a lot of browns in it, I felt like I needed to use the black. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this whole thing, and I am going to make sure I've got everything down, and I'm looking kind of for that, where all those are. Then what I do is I bring in my little clips, which I just had sitting here. So I have these little binder clips. They're like baby binders. So these are my little binder clips. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, like, this is just to help hold all of this together while I punch my holes. So I'm going to put one right here. And then I'm going to put one right here at the bottom. All right. All right, so then I'm going to use, and this is for those of you that scrapbook, you're very familiar with this tool. It's called a crocodile, and I love this tool because it punches holes for me. Now the eyelets that I'm using are going to be, I think they're like what are they? They're pretty small. And so I'm going to be using the smaller hole here. And that's why I put all this together. And now I'm seeing that I didn't get everything straight. So this part's really important. So take the time, if you have to undo things and make sure that you've got everything straight. Because this is super important. I'm just going to check. Okay, looks like I've got everything straight now. So we're going to come back in and we're going to re-put those clips in place. And again, guys, if you are on with me, I'm not seeing anybody on with me. I hope it's not because my comments aren't working. So if you guys are on and you're putting comments in, I apologize. I am not seeing them. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to use this hole punch and I'm just going to put this in, the whole thing in here, maybe. So I'm going to put that whole thing in there and I'm going to get it right over where I drew that circle. And then I'm just going to punch all the way through all of the sheets. Okay, that's why I like to use this crocodile because it's super strong. Okay, then we're going to go to the next one. Do the same thing. This part is what takes the longest, is just getting all these little pieces and parts, because the thing about these little travel journals is that it's for the person that you're giving it to, or if you're the one taking it, if you're doing this on a trip, then it's for you to, to add to, okay? So it's important that you leave, like, you don't fill everything up and you leave people spots to put things on. Okay, so the next step on this is we're going to add our little rivets. And so I have these little tiny ones. And let's see, I think I'm going to do silver because my jump rings are silver. And this particular one has a top and then it has a bottom to help close it. So I'm going to need 6 of these. And this is always fun, trying to keep track of all these little pieces. So I've got 1, 2, I think I'll do 3 at a time. Well, let me see if I can get all 6 out without making a hot mess. There's 3, 4, because we need 3 on the front and 3 on the back. We don't put them in the middle sections because you don't need to. Okay, so there's 6. And then I'm going to pull 6 of these out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. All right, and then for this, I've got the big one on here, so I'm basically going to just, if you guys have one of these, you're just going to push that out and you're going to twist it until the smaller piece comes. And this is B. It says B on this side. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just twisting it all the way to the other side. And so I have B4 is the 2 numbers that I can see here and here. All right, so now let's just start putting this together. So I'm just going to grab one of these at a time. And we're going to stick this up in there. And then we're going to stick our little, I guess these are called washers. I mean, I call them washers because that's what I'm used to when I'm working with other tools. And then I just slid that little piece up. Let's see. Yep. Okay, let's try that again. So I'm just going to put it up through there. And then I'm just pushing down pretty hard because I want that to flatten as flat as it will go. Okay. So then we're going to go to the next one. I know this is tedious watching this part. I apologize, but you guys need to know how to do this if you want to put these little journals together in this manner. Okay, again, I just got that little notch on the crocodile. And so what I'm talking about is this little pointy thing here. And so I'm just making sure that that's coming up through so that I'm able to squeeze it down. And then this little washer thing kind of wraps around and grabs that. Okay, so here's this one. And we got 3 more of these to do. And then we're going to start putting this puppy together. So there's the front. Now I'm going to grab the back. And again, this was just the designer series paper that I chose to cut a 4x6 out of. So this was not necessarily like on that sheet that you could cut apart. Okay, and you want this piece right here needs to go in on the side that you want to see this. So I want it on this outside because my book's going to go together like so. So I need that on the outside. And then we're going to grab one of these. We're going to do this whole process again. I hope you guys aren't having questions and I'm just not seeing them. That would be such a bummer. And then let's pull this one in. Sometimes after it's over, it will show me the questions. So don't get discouraged if you are asking questions and I'm just not seeing you. It says I'm connected, but it could just be no one's on tonight because I'm not doing cards. I'm doing something a little different than normal. All right, so we're just going to put that through. And again, this part right here, you know, if you guys do place that order, this part right here will already be done for you when you get these pieces. So you won't have to, you don't have to say, oh, well, there's no sense in me even doing that because I don't have a crocodile. You don't need a crocodile because I will do this part for you. Okay? So there we go. So that part is done. We can put our crocodile to the side. All right, so now the next thing before we can start decorating is now we've got to get everything back in there. And we need to get it all lined up so I can see all the way through. And then I'm going to pull in these jump rings. And I just get these at a local, either a local craft store, or I do order a lot of these online because I do junk journaling. And so I use these a lot. And so basically what you're going to do with these is you want to just like, you're not going to pull them apart like left and right. You're going to push and pull. So I'm going to take this right here with my pliers and I'm just going to pull that to me. Okay, and hopefully that's going to be wide enough to fit in here. The biggest issue you're going to come across is making this wide enough to fit like over all of the papers that you're using. And again, this might be a good time to come in with these little binder clips so that you're not fighting holding everything together because you've already got to struggle with getting this piece in, okay? So these binder clips are super handy. I use them in junk journaling all the time. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my pliers. And I'm just going to try to curve this one up and I might need to open that. I think I'm going to have to open it a little bit more. So basically I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to try to get that to go down in that hole is what I need it to do. Okay, and then once you get it down in that hole, then you're just going to pull it through, and then you're just going to like pull this back together. And if you haven't, like, it should come pretty close to going back together. Sometimes it doesn't if you've kind of made it go too far apart. And then I just push that up. So I just kind of messed that one up a little bit. But that's okay. I have a fix for that I'll show you in a second. Okay, so now we're going to do our next one. Again, I'm going to push down with the pliers and pull this side to me. And I'm trying to stay here at the top because I don't want it to get wider. And then again, we're just going to kind of bring that in like on the side. And then it looks like it's this side I need to work with this time. Then we're just going to get that to go through that hole. And then bring it up. Yeah, these little binder clips like help tremendously to hold it in place. Okay, so then I'm just pulling that back together just like that. And there is a little gap, but don't worry about that. So one more time. Okay, so I guess I need to get a little bit closer to show you guys what I'm doing. So here's my little jump ring. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to push, and I'm like pulling towards me and pushing away with the pliers. Oh, and then I was out of the screen. Okay, so I had my pliers and I pulled this to me and I pushed it that way. So we're opening it this way. Okay, so now we're going to bring this in and just get it to go through that hole. And then we're going to bring this up like so and just pull it back together like that. Now, because the inner papers don't have these clips on it, we need to do something to keep the paper from sliding out from between that small opening. And so I'm just going to bring in some musical washi tape. And I am just going to tear off a piece of this. And then I'm going to bring this in like so, and I'm going to stick this through. This might be a little wide, we'll see. It's sticking to me. All right, so I'm just going to bring that in, bring it through, and then we're just going to bring this up. And you want this to be fairly straight, okay? And then you just want to tighten that down around where that opening is. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my paper snips, and I am just going to cut this at an angle, like so. All right? So I'm going to do that on each of these little sections. And you can use whatever washi tape you have. Remember, and I think this is the thing that gets those of us that have been scrapbookers and card makers is that with junk journaling, everything doesn't have to be matchy-matchy, right? It's more about using up your scraps you know, or in this case, this wasn't scraps, but this was just a fun page that was in that designer series paper stack that I thought would make a really cute little journal. Okay, so we're just kind of squeezing this to make sure it's going to stay stuck right there. And then again, I'm just going to come in, cut that at an angle. Hey, Sasha. Glad you joined me. So I'm doing a little mini junk journal tonight with the On the Go suite if you're late coming in. And so if you want to see how I got to this point, you'll have to do the replay, but I'm glad you're here. Sasha is a fellow Stampin' Up demonstrator, and she is located in Albuquerque. We shared a plane flight back from North Carolina where we went to convention for Stampin' Up. Had a great time. Okay, so again, we're just going to do a little snip right there. Okay, so now you can take your little binder clips off. Okay, so now we've got our little journal. And so let's go ahead and add this pocket that I cut out earlier, and then I'll decorate the front. But see how see how that little pocket, because I poked the holes in it, so now we're able to stick some things down there. And then our other pocket is right here. And then this one's going to go on that map page where I added the map. So we're going to take this, and we're just going to pull the tear and tape off. And again, for those of you that aren't familiar with Stampin' Up lingo, this is double-sided tape. Some of you may know it as red line tape, but we call it tear and tape in the Stampin' Up world. And so I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to add it right here. So remember, we're not going to fill this whole thing because I'm doing these books for my grandchildren, and they're going to get to fill them. Okay, so they're going to get to, as we travel this summer, they're going to get to fill this. So the other thing that I did, as I did this earlier, was I stamped this, and again, this was from an older set. And like I said, part of the thing that got me into junk journaling was it encouraged me to pull out some old sets that I don't normally use. So this came from the Adventure Together. This was an online exclusive. And so I used this little stamp to say, let the adventure begin. And then I stamped this, and I colored this with our blends. And I did that ahead of time because I knew this was going to be a long one. And so I used shaded spruce for the little foliage in there, and then I used light and dark smoky slate, daffodil delight, and then light shy shamrock. So we're going to go ahead and cut this out with the dies that match up with this, and then I'm going to show you how and explain why I didn't just stamp this on the front. So this is the matching dies that go with that set. And so I see a lot of other little like things that I could use for this. If this was going to be my mini traveling journal, I could definitely see some things that we could use for that. All those little labels I would probably stamp out, like on that map page that I did the Ohio, there's a word that says Ohio. So I could actually stamp, put this on some pretty paper and then just glue in the thing that said Ohio and add that to this book as well. So hopefully I'll get to show you guys. We're not doing this trip till July, but hopefully I'll remember to get a picture of my grandkids as they're filling their journal on the trip, and you'll get to see how much fun they had with it. All right. Let me get this out of the way, because I'm also going to show you guys how to make a fun little journal spot pocket. All right, so I'm just going to take that off. Now, the reason that I did not stamp this directly onto the front here is because when you use blends, they bleed through. Can you guys see how it bled through? And I didn't want it to bleed through here. So that's why I decided to stamp it on another piece of paper and then just glue it on here. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're using markers, it won't do that. If you're using our watercolor pencils with the blender pens, it won't do that. But our blending pens, which are alcohol based, will bleed through. So I'm going to do that there, and then I'm going to take this. See all the big tools I have here, which are not normal Stampin' Up tools. And then I'm just going to fussy cut around this. And the one thing that I do when I'm junk journaling or scrapbooking is I do a lot of chalking. And you'll be able to see that. Sorry, I thought I had my do not disturb on, but my husband's phone call was just coming through. All right, so again, I'm just going to chalk these edges just to make it pop a little bit. Chalking is kind of you can call it a faux matting. You know how in card making we matte things, like we put another color of cardstock behind it. Well, when you chalk, it kind of gives it that same look as if you had matted something behind it. All right, so we're going to glue this on. Then we're going to go back to our little tags from the beginning. All right, so remember those tags that I did earlier where we added them to some tea-dyed paper? So now we're just going to cut these apart, or cut these, you know, basically just kind of cut around them. And it's pretty easy just to cut around it. And the reason that I did this, if you guys remember right, is I wanted to have a journaling spot on the front and the back. So that's my reasoning for all of this. And then I'm going to chalk all of these, and then we're going to put these in the journal, and you're going to see how cute this all looks. Yeah, no, Sasha, I don't try to cut my words meticulously. I just fussy cut around them. Yeah, you haven't heard my story about when I was a young child, like my mom would get me paper dolls, and I was so excited if they were the punch out ones, but I so hated cutting that if she got me the cutout paper dolls, I literally never played with them because I hated having to cut right on the line. So fussy cutting is my best friend. I love it. But even like now, I'm having to kind of cut on the line, but I can live through this, mainly because this tea-dyed paper is it's pretty easy to cut, as you can see. Now, I normally save all of this because I end up making other stuff out of this. So you too, Sasha. That's funny. All right. So again, let me just bear with me while I cut through all of these. And then we're going to bring in some of the thread that goes along with this set. And we're going to thread the tops of these, and I think I have a little hole punch or a circle punch that I'm going to use for that. I could use my crocodile one, but I think it was just a little bit bigger than I wanted, and so I brought in like a 1/4 inch circle punch and a very old Stampin' Up 1/4 inch circle punch. So for all of you that are hoarding Stampin' Up stuff, do not feel bad. If you ever do decide to get into junk journaling, you will have a place to use all of that stuff. Because I use my retired designer series paper. I use retired stamp sets, dies, to do junk journaling. I just recently finished a class up of, we used little golden books, and then we designed, and if we have time, I'll show you one at the end, but we used retired designer series paper. So see how that, that's on the back. Now you can check your edges, and if your edges are coming up, you can put a little bit of glue. Another thing, I'm not going to do that tonight, but a lot of times I will take my sewing machine and I will sew like just straight lines down, just to make sure that when I've backed something like that, that it stays in place. Plus it looks really cool when you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and chalk all of these really quick. Because I'm not sewing, especially, it needs something to make that stand out. And I am going to chalk both sides. And you can see, I mean, you know, the biggest thing with junk journaling is it's not about perfection. It's about just enjoying crafting. It's about creating and making it look the way that you want it to look. Maybe that's why I like junk journaling so much, because it's not as exact. I have a funny story. I tried quilting one time. I have a lot of my friends who quilt, and they were convinced they could teach me how to quilt, but I cannot sew straight if my life depended on it. And so I joined this little club. I went every month, and I spent the whole time doing nothing but tearing out what I had sewed because I couldn't do it straight. And I convinced them. Yes, Sasha, no rules to junk journaling. Right? It's just, you know, using a lot of, like you saw, I used an old map page. I use old music pages. I collect old books. I have tons of old book pages. All of our memories and more cards that I end up not using are perfect for junk journaling. There's just a lot of stuff that Stampin' Up puts out that are so good for junk journaling. So lots of fun there. And I just think it's a good way for us to use our product. And you'd be surprised how quickly you go through all that product that you've been hoarding for so long. You'll go through it pretty quick. I am gonna use my bone folder. I don't know if you guys can see all the places where that kind of, let me bring it closer. Can you see where that kind of ruffled up? And so all you're gonna do is just take your bone folder and you're just gonna smooth it out. All right, and now look, nice and straight. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in that 1/4 inch circle punch. Again, do you guys know how old this thing is? Stampin' Up. And then I'm just going to cut, poke some holes in all my little tags here. Come on, let go. And then we're going to bring in some of that really cool twine that came with this suite, the On the Go suite. And we're going to add it to these tags. But I'm going to show you a little trick, because what I struggle with when I'm using the, for junk journaling, not in card making, so don't get me wrong, but in junk journaling, I struggle with, using our threads or our twines because they're so thin. And so I'm wanting to have a specific look, and I don't always get that look. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to bring in some of the twine. And so what I'm going to do is that's about how big I want it, but instead of just doing one, I'm actually going to do 3 together. And then that gets me the look that I'm looking for. And I'm probably only going to put it on one of them because I have one more fun little pocket to show you how to make. It's a really fun pocket, and I want to make sure I show it to you guys. And then obviously we all know how to add the thread, right? So So basically, if you put 3 of these together, and I always push from the front to the back. That's just my preference. And then we're just going to grab those legs through and pull it up. But do you see how it gives you a funner top than if you were just to do one strand? That just looks so much better. Okay, I'm not going to spend time doing the rest of these. I'll do these in a little bit because I want to show you how to make this really fun pocket. Okay, so I have this little, again, I collect old notepads, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to want about 4 of these. So I'm going to tear these down. And I'll have to cut these down. Because I believe this is, and again, this is just the designer series paper. This is a 4 by, and you can make this with any size. The other thing about, this is 4 by 8.5. So the other thing I had to get used to with junk journaling is that if I see somebody doing something and I'm like, oh, I want to make that, and I ask them what size, they're like, oh, just whatever. And I'm like, what do you mean whatever? Right? We all about have a heart attack when that happens. So because we're so used to sizes. So I'm just going to cut like a 1/2 inch off of each end here. And then of course, I'm not throwing this away. I'm saving it for later. And actually, I'm going to show you a good use for that in just a hot second. Okay, so let me see if that's going to fit. That'll fit on the inside now. And then, okay, so what I did was I scored this. I scored it at 2 inches. And I'm going to fold that in like that. And then the way that you make this fun little pocket is that folds down. And then you're going to bring this bottom section up, but you're not going to go all the way to the crease. You're going to go about, I'm going to say, 1/4 inch below the crease. Like so. Then I have this other piece that I had sitting here a second ago, but as you guys all know, oh, there it is. So then I had gone ahead and cut a piece that was about 1 3/4 by 4, and I'm going to glue that on here. But before I do that, I'm going to chalk around the edge because it's important for me to chalk around this top edge because this is going to be a pocket. Now this time, just for time's sake, I'm just going to show you because you can use liquid glue as well. You don't always have to use tear and tape, especially when you're wanting to leave more room for the, like, to put stuff in. Our Tombow glue is a excellent glue for junk journaling. It holds like a champ. So that's going to go down there. Then I want kind of a rough edge up here, so I'm just going to tear this. We do a lot of tearing in junk journaling as well. Okay, so I'm going to tear that again, bring in my, and you can see I haven't had to re-ink this in a bit, because once you use these little daubers and you get that ink on them, it goes a long way. So that's the other cool thing. I'm not worried about inking the back side of this because it is going to be glued down into the book. All right, so then what we're going to do is where's my sheets of paper that I had? Okay, so now I'm going to bring in my ruler. I mean, this is the only time that I actually measure is because I need to see how much. So it's like 3 inches. So I need to cut this down to 3 inches. Because it needs to fit inside. Well, if I can turn my trimmer the right way. Okay, so I think I'm going to go just a little bit below the 3 inches. We're going to cut that off. And again, I will use this later. I do not throw those little pieces away. If you guys knew, for those of you that understand junk journaling, you know why I hold on to all that stuff. So then I'm going to come in and I have this fun little stapler. It's called the, what's it called? Tiny something. I've had it for a while, but it has little itty bitty staples. Tim Holtz puts this out. And so I'm going to staple right there and staple right there. Do you see how tiny those staples are? They're like, well, let me get my hand behind it so you can see. They're itty bitty staples. And then if you wanted to, if you don't like the way the staples look, then remember these little strips that we took off? You could come in and you could cover this with that. And that might be something I do later. I'm not going to do it right at this moment. Because I just want to show you how this needs to go in here. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to put glue on this back piece. And that's going to go in our little pocket. That's why this is called a hidden journal, because you don't realize what it is when you first see it. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and put some tear and tape if I can find it. You guys should see my desk. It is a hot mess. All right, this time I am going to use tear and tape because I do want this to be really secure in the book. All right, and then I'm going to go across the top. I know you guys are thinking that's overkill, but this is something that's going to move a lot, so I'm going to make sure that I put that. Oh, I'm glad you like it, Sasha. All right, so let's get that. We're going to pull all of this up. I know, isn't that fun? And you know what's really cool about doing something, you could actually do this on a card too, you guys. But what's really cool about that is that, you know how all of us get those notepads from companies that are trying to get our business and it has their name at the top of it? Don't throw them away. You can use them in things like this, and then if their name was up here, you just cover it up and there you go. All right, so let me grab. Here's the little journal, and so this is gonna go on that very last page. And again, this is just gonna give my grandkids spots for writing down their thoughts or fun things that they did, or even adding pictures. And then what's cool is, so you're like, oh, but it pops open. Or a photo album, yes. And you're like, oh, this pops open. Yes, it does. But that's where your tags come in, because your tags are going to hold this shut. And remember, I'm going to add more twine to the end of these. So now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to show you really quick like how I add little pieces. And I don't think I did a small piece, but I know there's some small pieces that you can cut out. This is some of the stuff I pre-cut out. And so, trying to see if there's like a skinnier tag. So yeah, so like the skinnier tags would fit there, just like that. Yeah, those pennies, yeah. And then of course you could put one there. And then remember, I also made this, and I'm just going to use this as an example. So you have a pocket here, and then you're going to have that pocket right in between as well. And then I'm going to turn and I'm going to find my other little, so here's my next pocket. And so I'm going to put this long green one in here. And again, if they get things along the way that they want to put in there, they have a little souvenir ticket or something, this is going to be perfect. And we can add more pockets. So that's the fun thing about this. So here's this one, and we're going to stick this one in here. And then this one, what I'm going to do with this one is actually not going to go in a pocket. It is just going to sit right here. And I am going to bring in a paper clip, because that's the other fun thing about these little junk journals is you can just have a bunch of paper clips for them, and they can just paper clip the stuff that they get on their journey. All right, and then again, this is like an extra one, so again, I could paper clip this one over here the same way. All right, so let's do one quick run through this, and you guys will see. So here it is. Let me do get it closer up so you can see. Okay, so it was pretty simple to put together. I just used those 4x6s that were on the back of one of the pages from the On the Go Designer Series paper. I did have to cut a couple 4x6 of the Designer Series paper, but here we go. Let the adventure begin. Here's all these fun pockets. They're going to be able to put pictures, all sorts of fun things. And then I may decide to add some other pockets here. And then, of course, my granddaughter has one of those little, those cameras that print out the little tiny pictures. It's like a Polaroid. And so this is just going to be so much fun. All right. And so there's that. And so all I did, guys, I just simply used all of those pieces. And yes, this is sideways. In junk journaling, we don't care. Okay, then there's this. And then, of course, you know, they'll be able to put something here and then write something here and stick it back in there. And then we've got these two things. And then we have more places to write right there. And then we're going to close it. And it's that Designer Series paper. All right, so super fun. These are super, super fun. So again, like I told you guys, if you're already planning on placing an order, remember today, tomorrow, and so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is free shipping. If you guys do place an order with me, I'll put my order link. I usually have it in the description, but anyway, internet was not working with me. I'll put that in there. If you place a $40 order with me, you are going to get everything you need to put this together except for the stamps. But I will put all these little pieces, like I won't put this whole thing together for you, but I will give you the pieces, and I will, like these little rivets will already be in place. That way you can go through and make this be the way you want it to. So that will be yours free if you do a $40 order with me between now and Monday. So anyway, guys, thank you for being here with me tonight. I get so excited when people come and hang out with me. It's so much more fun when people are here. And Sasha, I'm so glad you were here tonight. It's always fun to meet back up with someone that, you know, we kind of hung out for a little bit on the airplane flight back and saw you at On Stage. So much fun to have you here. But if you guys have any questions, just reach out to me. Let me put up there's where you can order from me through Julie's Creative Stampin' at gmail.com. If you guys have any questions about anything you saw me do tonight, just send me an email and I will do the best I can to get that answered for you guys. But hey, not bad. I only went 13 minutes over, and this was like a mini journal. Okay. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I am so appreciative of you guys sharing your time with me because I know how precious time is. But I will be back next week, and then some of you I will see tomorrow at my Paper Pumpkin Alternative class. So everybody have a good evening and a good rest of your week if I don't see you till next week. And Sasha, thank you so much for being here.